Hello everyone, welcome back to Scared to Death for Fun. As always, my name is Brendan, and today I have another basically of a fairly interesting movie that I just watched literally this morning. This is going to be a summary of Titane. Titane, I'm not even sure who the director is. Titane is made by the same woman who made the movie Raw. I had heard about Raw back a few years ago, like closer to when it first came out. I did watch Raw. I enjoyed Raw. I actually had heard about Titane from Possessed by Horror's channel. She made a video a few months ago about disturbing movies that she'll never watch, and it was intriguing to me, so I decided to give it a chance. I wanted to see what it was about, and it's definitely something. How I want to start these summaries out is basically telling people what the horror of the film really entails of, what are like the scary bits, so you can make the decision at the beginning before I get to the summary of if you would want to watch it. If you know that you already don't want to watch it, then I will get into the review shortly. Basically, a lot of the horror of Titane comes from killing in the beginning and kind of gross imagery. There's a lot of naked ladies. We see a lot of boobies, a lot of her naked, some other women naked. The kills aren't necessarily grotesque, and a lot of the kills and goriness are at the beginning of the film. And there's definitely more body horror just of our main character, and she's pregnant, spoiler, towards the end of the film, so it gets a little bit more grotesque from an individual standpoint as the film goes on. The beginning, there is a lot more kills and still grossness. Even the way that she does kill some people is a little freaky, and there's one moment where she attempts to do something to herself, which that was a little uncomfortable. A lot of the kills are very realistic, okay? It's not like she's hacking people up with a chainsaw or an axe. She literally uses a chopstick for a lot of the kills. One kill she uses a stool. So it's just very like practical effects. But yeah, I didn't think it was too bad. So if you're on the fence, I think you could watch it. But it's very odd. Without further ado, Titane opens with this little girl, the main character, and her father driving in a car, and she's being annoying, I'm gonna be honest, but the father's clearly getting annoyed with her, which I was like, hey dude. So he keeps turning up the music, whatever, so she unbuckles her seatbelt and starts to stand up, and the dad looks behind and is like, oh my god, what the fuck, and then like crashes the car, but not in a way where he gets hurt. He kind of just like spins out, and so the little girl, hits the inside of the car. You only see like a bloody little windshield. You don't really see her getting hit. You don't see her getting thrown around in the back seat. Then she's in the hospital. She has a metal plate put in her head, like right here, like part of her skull, I'm assuming, was shattered. So then they put this metal plate in her head to be her skull, and she like is just slowly regaining her use of her limbs and everything. This is all like really quick, by the way. It's not like a drawn out sequence. It's like in a matter of seconds they are showing us this to us. That's the opening scene. Is the car crash. She gets a metal plate put in her head, and that's a little gory, but then the dad's kind of just looking at her, whatever. So then we cut to her as an adult. We know it's her because there's like the scar in her head from being sewn up, and she's walking through this car place. It's like a warehouse that has cars in it, and there are strippers on the cars. They're not like fully naked and stripping, but they're like dancing. I don't know what this is. It's not like they're actually stripping, but there are men watching these women who are basically dancing like strippers. None of them are naked at this point. Anyway, she walks through this weird car place, and she goes to this car, and she starts dancing, and we get a big shot of her dancing. And then afterwards, these men come up to her and ask for her autograph. I guess that's just what it is. So then we go to the showers, and she meets this one girl, and they're naked. This is like the first fully nude scene. And they're just showering, cleaning up, and then her hair gets caught in this woman's nipple piercing. There's like a weird scene, like asking if it hurts. And the main character's name is Alexa. I guess I can refer to her as Alexa. And the name's gonna get a little confusing later on, but Alexa's hair gets caught in this woman's nipple piercing, and then she leaves. So as they're leaving, Alexa is clearly perturbed. She's kind of annoyed. She just wants to get to her car. And while she's walking to her car, this guy starts like chasing her. And I'm like, oh shit, bitch. She's getting chased. So she finally makes it to her car. And this man is like, please, I just want your autograph. And she, for some reason, rolls down her window. Which if I was her, especially a woman in this situation, I wouldn't be opening my window for this man. I don't know who he is. I would have just driven away. So she gives him her autograph. And he is like, I'm in love with you. I saw you here. You probably don't remember. And she's like, yeah, I don't remember you. And so he confesses his love for her and then starts kissing her. And at first she's kind of like not into it. And then she just starts to kiss him. And then she has like a chopstick holding her hair. And she pulls out the chopstick and jabs it in his ear. And that, oh, it was just so like nasty. And you don't see like the gore in his ear. But like he starts foaming at the mouth and like throwing up. And she basically holds it there until he dies. So she packs up his body, puts it in her trunk or her back seat. And I actually don't know what she does with it. But after she puts the man that she just killed in her back seat, she goes back into the warehouse place and showers. And then she sees the car that she was dancing on earlier. And she basically fucks it. You don't see anything getting inserted into her gooter. But she's having an orgasm, she's having sex. She like is in the seat belts, like, you know, rocking one out, okay? Yeah, that happened. So after she does that, it cuts to the next day. She's at her house, and she's alone at first, and then her father from the beginning comes in, and they do not interact. They're literally both in the kitchen together, so it's established that the two of them don't talk, don't interact, whatever. So then the mom comes home, which we haven't really seen the mom. We saw her quickly at the hospital. The mom comes home and she talks to her, and Alexa's like, oh yeah, I'm just having some stomach pain, whatever. And she's like, well, why don't you have dad look at it? And then the dad looks at it. Nothing really comes from that. After this brief scene of the parents and her together, it skips back to the girl from the shower. So we are now with Alexa and the girl from the shower with the nipple piercings, and they're kissing. They're really getting into it. They're outside. And Alexa starts to like suck on this girl's nipple piercing. Again, a lot of naked ladies in this movie. And she is just like sucking it really long. And the girl is like, you can move down farther. This is your first time with a girl. And Alexa starts like literally sucking this nipple. And it gets like, it doesn't get bloody, but she like starts sucking it. And it basically starts to hurt the other girl. And she's like, what the fuck? And it was real tense. I was like, oh, it was a little uncomfortable near the end to watch it because like the nipple is like getting stretched. It's really weird, really gross, whatever. So Alexa runs away from her and she ends up throwing up in the ocean. And immediately at this point, I was like, oh, girlie, she's pregnant. We go back to this lover's house, not Alexa's house, the other girl's house. And she's on the toilet with a pregnancy test. And I guess I don't know, I've never been in a place where I need to take a pregnancy test, and I will never have to take one myself, so I don't know. I'm assuming it said positive because of the next scene. So she's sitting on the toilet, she throws the pregnancy test, and she takes the chopstick out of her hair, and she shoves it up her vagina. She shoves it up, she's digging around, basically trying to abort the child. It's something. Again, you don't get a full visual of her doing it. Like, it's not like we're down in her lady area, but she's grunting, has toilet paper in her mouth, and really trying to get in there, okay? So the other girl is like, are you okay in there? And she wipes it off, and like this black sludge came out. It wasn't like bloody or anything, so that was the first inclination of like, okay. So Alexa just leaves the bathroom, goes back downstairs with this girl, and they start kissing on the couch. And so they're literally kissing on the couch for like a few seconds, and she takes the chopstick once again out of her hair, jabs the girl on the side. They have like a little bit of an altercation, and she ends up stabbing her, I think in the cheek, somewhere in the head, and she is laying on the couch dead. So then dead girl's roommate comes down the stairs and is like, is everything okay? And Alexa gets up, grabs a knife for some reason that they have, some sharp object, I think it was a knife, from the fireplace, and walks over to the roommate. And this roommate is male. They start having an altercation, and then she takes a stool and gets him on the ground and basically shoves the stool through his mouth and then sits on it. And now the one guy she just killed, his girlfriend comes down the stairs and sees that, and we see his bloody face a little bit. And now Alexa runs upstairs, the girl locks herself in the bathroom, and then there's a fourth guy, and he's naked, I think, for some reason. So Alexa, this is like some of the weird comedy that's thrown throughout, but Alexa is like, how many of you are there? And he's like, it's just me, and he names just 4 other people. And so she hugs him and she's like, I'm so exhausted. And then she stabs this 4th roommate in the back. And his death is really like low-key, whatever. So then while she does that, the girl that's locked in the bathroom / bedroom, I'm not sure what it is, runs out and down the stairs. Her and Alexa fight and have an altercation, and she bangs Alexa's head into the stairs and then is able to escape. So Alexa's like, well, shit. She doesn't really say any of this. She just gets up. She gets home, and her dad sees her in like the bloody clothes, and Alexa strips and burns them. Then the fire escalates and starts to burn the garage down, and she leaves the door open to the garage, and smoke is billowing out. So then she goes to her parents' room, takes the key from their side, and shuts it, and the dad sees, and then she locks the door, alluding to that she trapped her parents in there to kill them. However, we never see the house fully burned down or them dead. So she leaves, and she hitchhikes with some random person to wherever they're going. He lets her off at, it's like an airport. It's either like, it's giving me airport vibes, train station vibes. I'm not sure, again, if there are, this is my US brain. Those are the only things I can associate with what this place looks like. But while she's walking through this place, there are missing person posters from when people are kids and like they age them up. I know y'all have seen like when it's like a little kid and it's like, this is what I look like now, and like they age it up. And then something comes on one of the screens and it's her, and like we're looking for this missing person, and she's like, oh shit. So while she's looking at one of the missing persons, she then goes to the bathroom and she's like, cuts off all of her long hair. She doesn't buzz her head. It kind of is like my hair. She just cuts it all off. Then she shaves her eyebrows. She then realizes that her belly is starting to show. I don't know how much time has passed since she took, like, I'm assuming it's been like at most a few hours, but her stomach's already starting to protrude a bit from the pregnancy. And she's again naked in this scene. This is another naked scene. She has a pregnant belly, so she uses this gauze thing to tighten her boobs and her stomach, so she has a flat body. And immediately I was like, oh, she's trying to look like a boy. She's trying to disguise herself. This scene probably got to me the most, which is so wild. So then she tries to punch and break her nose, and she can't do it. So she uses the sink. She like is like, oh, like smashes her head into it, and like it breaks it. It's successful. And then it cuts to this man we've never seen before. And the cop's like, do you want to call your wife? Do you want to do this? He's like, I think I'll be able to tell. Alexa is now passing as more masculine, and this man comes over and he's basically like, oh yes, that's him. And we realize that she is trying to pass as one of the missing children, now an adult. This is where it's going to get a little confusing. The dad confirms that Alexa is his missing son, whose name is Adrian, and takes her home with him. And he lives, I think he lives in an apartment complex, but he also might live at the fire station because this man is a fire chief. But he takes Alexa to his house, and the first night he puts her in the room. He almost walks in on her because she takes off her wrapping, and it's kind of just like, again, another naked lady. She starts to just like look a little scratched up. You can tell that she's actively becoming pregnant. She has a bump. The first night, the dad almost catches Alexa as a woman because she's naked and has her boobies out. But she is able to tell him to turn around so she can just give him the clothes, because the dad's like, I need your clothes. And the dad locks her in the bedroom. And immediately I was a little like, okay, something's not adding up. We see a weird montage of the dad doing, I think, steroids. He's injecting something into his butt. I assumed it was steroids, but it might be a weird medicine. I don't know. And then he's trying to do push-ups. I feel like it's supposed to show that he's like losing his masculinity. The dad is losing the life that he once had. So it cuts to the next morning. The dad basically is treating Alexia like it is his son. He is going to have I'm just going to call her Alexa. He's going to have Alexa work at the fire station that he is chief of. So the next scene is the dad, the police chief, and some of his other firefighters work going into this simulation. There's like this table burning and all this stuff, and the chief sees a little boy burned in this cabinet, whatever. It's just an illusion, it's all in his head. But this is where, at least for me, I realized that, oh, his actual son is dead. I was starting to get the inclination that he knew that Alexa was not really his son, but he sees this just dead, decaying corpse of a body, whatever. And then it cuts to Dad and Alexa having dinner, and he yells at her, why don't you ever talk? Why don't you ever say anything? And she is still trying to just keep the facade up. She ends up trying to leave, but he again locked the front door. And then the dad starts playing music and they start dancing. And then the dancing gets very physical and he starts like shoving her. So then she tackles him and then tries to take her chopstick and stab him. But she's unsuccessful. And he's like, why do you always try to leave? If you want to leave, whatever. So he gives her the keys. She leaves. She gets on a bus. Then on the bus, there's these annoying men, which, let me just say, these types of men, these groups of young men, I feel like pop up so much in horror movies. They're just talking about fucking people, fucking women, and they literally say like, as long as it's a hole, I don't care. I just want a hole. I don't care. And I was like, okay. Alexa just gets off the bus and she goes back, and while she was on the bus, the dad overdoses on whatever medication he's injecting into his butt. I thought he was dying, but I don't think he was. And Alexa then finds him in the bathroom, overdosed, and is like, oh my god, Dad, please, Dad. I feel like at this scene she realizes that she kind of has been enjoying the care that he's been giving her, so she stays. So it cuts to some time later, and Alexa is in the parents' room, and she starts to try on one of the mother's dresses, and at this point she's visibly pregnant. She has a belly. She just tries it on, I guess, to try to get in touch with her feminine side. And as she's in the dress, the dad comes home. She hides in the closet. He comes into the bedroom. She's startled because he finds her. He is like, oh my gosh, starts laughing. Is like, come here. And he shows her a scrapbook of when their actual son was younger and he was wearing that same dress. And so the dad's like, you have to be my son because it's too much of a coincidence. They just like hug and embrace. It cuts to them the next day, and Alexa goes on this house call from this old lady as a firefighter, and her dad is there and this other police worker. It's three of them, or firefighter. And this man overdosed, and then the old lady that is with the civilian that overdosed, she starts to hyperventilate and like passes out. Alexa has to give the old lady CPR while the chief, the dad, is trying to get this overdose person to breathe. They sort of bond in this scene in a really weird way. She's giving this old woman mouth to mouth and revives her, and the dad's like singing the Macarena to have her keep beat of like the presses on this woman's chest. So they leave that kind of like happy and together. And as they're leaving, in the back of the ambulance, the third fireman and Alexa are looking at each other, and the third fireman sees the wanted picture of Alexa with long hair and is kind of like putting the pieces together. And he's like, where were you from before this? What were you doing? And Alexa laughs it off. So they're having a party later in the firehouse. That third fireman pulls the dad aside and is like, I have to talk to you about your son. I have to talk to you about your son. And he doesn't want to hear it. So he just goes back to dancing, and then Alexa starts to dance with him. It's the next day, and the mother shows up at the dad's house. So now the mother is looking at Alexa, and the dad's like, go hug your son. You're not going to hug your son, whatever. So it's really awkward. and she hugs him, and they start having dinner, and the mother starts to kind of play along. And you can definitely tell from the mother that she's like, this is not my kid. And she knows that it's not her kid. And it's just affirming our fact that we know that the kid has died. The mother asked Alexa to go back to her room so her and the husband can have one-on-one time. Alexa goes back to her room, and she's been scratching at her pregnant belly the whole time. And in her room, Alexa scratches her stomach so much that it punctures a hole. And we start to see like metal, and because she has the metal plate in her head, and it's kind of like, oh, okay, there's metal in her stomach. So she unwraps, and like black liquid starts to ooze from her nipples, and yeah, that happens. But then the mother barges in, and the mother is just staring at Alexa, and it's just like, what the fuck? The mother tells Alexa, like, I know that you're not clearly my kid, but you have to stay here. You have to take care of him. Take care. I don't care if it's you. I don't care if it's someone else. You have to take care of him. And then she leaves. The mother is gone. We go to another fire. This one's real, I'm assuming. And it's just the dad, Chief, and the fireman that knows Alexa's real identity. So they're going, and while in this fire, it's like in the middle of the woods, it's at a trailer, the fireman is still trying to tell the dad, like, that's not your son. It's someone else. I have to tell you the truth. The father finds, I'm assuming, a propane tank in this trailer that might have caused the fire. And it's not on fire. I don't know. He has some tank full of something. He gives it to this fireman and then starts walking away from him. And then it explodes. It explodes. There's a big explosion. All the other firefighters start rushing towards them. And that firefighter is dead. The dad has killed him. The propane tank that he has given him has killed him. We then are concluding that, okay, the dad knows that it's a facade and just wants to live in Fantasyland. Alexa is then showering after that back at home, and she starts to bleed the black sludge again from her gooter. She's just having a lot of pain. The scars on her stomach are starting to like get worse. We still see the metal. And then she gets out of the shower, and the dad barges in again, and she covers up, and the dad is like, I don't care who you are. You're gonna be my son. I don't care if you're not my son, but you're gonna be my son. Like, I don't care. So they hug, and the towel falls down, and he sees her boobies. And then he just pulls the towel back up and acts like he didn't see anything. It cuts to another party of the firemen. She's in the middle of like this mosh pit style dance, and I thought like she was gonna lose the baby or something. For some reason, two firemen carry her to a fire truck, and she goes to the fire truck and walks up on top of it. They start to play like sexy music. And being a former car stripper in the past, she starts to dance like that, like very sexy and sultry. And all the firemen stop applauding and like are looking at her because they think it's a guy. They're like, what the fuck? The dad comes in, the chief, and he's looking at her and is like, what the fuck? And he's disappointed and he leaves. And she doesn't stop. She doesn't give a fuck. She's still dancing. She's doing her little sexy thing. She's a stripper. And everybody kind of just meanders around, leaves, I think. And then another cut, and she's fucking the fire engine. Full on sex. Again, it doesn't show what bits she's putting in her gooter, but it's another of like, having sex with the fire engine, which isn't too far off for her. She's fucked cars before. She's done that. So after the fire engine escapade, rendezvous, if you will, she gets out and basically is going into labor. She pushes real hard, and like this seam around her stomach starts to like rip open, which was like real fucking nasty. It's metal. It's like metal. It's not like a normal person. It's metal underneath. It's a sheet of metal. She's screaming. She's in pain. She's naked. Clearly. And she starts walking from the firehouse alone, naked and alone, and it's daylight, to the apartment, the dad's apartment. And while this is happening, the dad is laying in bed, he's smoking, he's flicking his lighter, and he spits alcohol on himself and then lights it on fire because he wanted to. And he gets that out. He lights himself on fire. It's kind of like, okay, is he gonna kill himself? Because I feel like he's been kind of suicidal the whole time. He injected all the stuff. Alexa comes in and she goes into his bedroom, still naked, and she lays next to him and is like, "I love you," and the dad says, "I love you too." So they're fully like, we love each other, we love that. So she then starts to kiss him on the body and then kisses him on the mouth and tries to seduce him. And he gets up and is like, no. Which rightfully so, because even though she's a girl and he knows she's a girl, she's playing his son, and that's really incestuous and weird, and I'm glad they didn't do that. Anyway, he tries to leave, and Alexa's like, no, please stay. I'm scared. I'm so scared. Please stay. And then she just starts like going into full labor, like having this child, and black ooze, which I'm assuming it's supposed to be car oil. Because she fucks cars, She starts oozing this black liquid, and it starts like coming out of her nipples and ripping her stomach and whatever, and the dad's like, push, and he keeps calling her Adrian, his son's name, and in this scene, she confesses and is like, my name's Alexa, and he's like, Alexa, push, Alexa, and so she gives birth on his bed, and while she gives birth, like, the little spot in her head where the metal plate is, like, starts to bleed the black ooze as well. After she gives birth, he tries to give her CPR for a little bit, and she's dead. And the baby's alive and screaming. And so then the dad picks up the baby and is holding the baby and is like, I'm here. And the baby has like a metal spine. So we're like, oh, it's like part metal like her, part machine. Also because the dad's probably a car, I guess. Because that happens in this world. But that's the end of the film. But yeah, that is Titane. It's good, but it's weird. There's a lot of naked ladies. The kills are, like, simplistic, but it almost makes it worse. She broke her nose. That was bad. She stabbed a chopstick in somebody's ear and face and bit off a nipple ring. Well, she didn't bite it off. She didn't pull it. She almost did. She wanted to, but she didn't. The first, like, third of this movie, when she's killing everybody and creepy, is very much a horror to me, and I enjoyed that. But then it took a turn, and she started to play this role of this man's lost son. And it wasn't bad. Like, I don't want the perception to be that I was disappointed, but it definitely turns more into a drama. It was just an odd watch. If whatever I said sounded interesting, I guess give it a watch. It's shot very well and acted well, I guess. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and comment what fucking part of this movie was the worst for you. And subscribe. And I make a variety of content here just on any horror movies. If there's any horror movie you want me to talk about anyway, just let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!